left home at 16, worked on a farm while studying part-time for my A-levels, I was lucky to end up doing a degree in aeronautical engineering at Imperial College London. Now, computing is key to aeronautics development, and at college I moved from the punch tape I used to program with at school to separate cards for each program line fed into the computer by a card reader, and then onto the very latest personal computer at the time, a BBC-B computer. In my final year, I calculated inviscid flow patterns over multi-slotted airfoils. And no, I'm not going to explain that today. It did need some novel mathematical exploitations, but there on my lap, I was getting results equal to that being achieved by Boeing and others using mass mainframes. The power of computing was clear to me already in 1984, age 21. But there were lessons I was yet to learn, and indeed the world was yet to learn, in moving from individual computing tasks to networking of computers and data, and how that would multiply that power for governments, businesses, and individuals. Having got my degree, it was off to my first main job. And money had been short in my life since 16, so I started working the week after I finished my finals. No summer holiday for me. And that meant I was immediately given a real job rather than doing the graduate shuffle for the next 2 years. I was working on simulating the mission system for the UK's Tornado F3 fighter aircraft to support flight trials data analysis. An absolute dream for the kid who had a poster of the original prototype on my wall in the mid-70s. At the same time, the UK Ministry of Defence decided that that fighter would be the first platform to integrate what we would now call the military internet. The Link 16 tactical data link, which provided a network interface, a very complicated one, mind you, to share data amongst all participants in the battle space. Through good fortune, I was given the task of managing this integration, a task that would usually have been given to someone much older and more experienced. But because my initial modeling work had given me an understanding of all aspects of the weapon system, I was perfectly placed to understand the impact across the aircraft systems. That meant that I became a world expert in the area of military networking when there were less than 10 other experts. So in 1986, I left my first job and started my business STASYS along with another expert in the area. Now, to cut a long story short, we were successful in providing consultancy, software and services to help defense ministries around the world procure and implement military networks, and the software, systems and processes we invented, termed iSmart, became and still is today the foundation in managing networks, data exchange, and ensuring interoperability between implementations. This led to us selling STASYS to Lockheed Martin in 2005, the world's largest defense company. But what did I learn along the way? 3 things. Firstly, the sheer power of networking data to multiply effectiveness. Something we know from our experience of the internet today, but back then was quite easy to underestimate. For example, back in the mid-80s, we believed, after extensive modeling and highly classified at the time, that introducing networking to the Tornado would increase operational effectiveness by 31%. A very precise answer, but ultimately grossly incorrect. In fact, when it was first operational, the figure was initially 400% and increased from there. Secondly, it's fiendishly complex to try and integrate end-by-end platforms together across multiple networks. So many data silos, implementation differences, data languages differences, that even with a single contracting authority, the Departments of Defense, a truly 100% distributed network with all communicating to all is simply not within our reach. We had to implement collection points to form the tactical picture together and then redistribute. We had a wonderful name for one of these, Bacon and Eggs, the Battlefield Air Communications Node and Enhanced Ground-to-Ground System. You could make an acronym of anything. This acted as an integration and rebroadcast system and simplified all the other connections to the data. And the final point, Simplicity beats complexity every time. But simplicity requires work. It requires you to go through the complexity to the other side, through a deeper understanding where you can provide a simple solution to a complex issue. Now, that's not a new learning. My favorite quote is from Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. I would not give a fig for the simplicity this side of complexity, but I would give my life for the simplicity on the other side of complexity. So fast forwards to 2013, I'd retired, spent 2 years traveling the world, set up an innovation hub and had a small business, Social Safe, looking at social data backup for individuals. I then had a light bulb moment that the 3 lessons I had learned before could be applied to solve the issues around personal data as I saw them. Today, the main issue that hits the news about our personal data is the privacy and security of our data and its use without our consent. This is a critical issue and must be solved. But there is an equally critical issue. We need to share more personal data to benefit from many of the advances that we all want. But we can't easily do so because our data is locked away in stovepipes or data silos. But why do we need to share more? It seems counterintuitive to the privacy issues we're grappling with today. So as an example, think about health. We want to move to personalized medicine, medicine about me, the individual. And if we're going to get there, we need to share our health data since we were born, our advanced wearables, our genetic data, the food we buy and eat, and even our social data, as it's a good indicator of mental state. But we just can't share that data today. It's held all over the place. And bringing it together by businesses or health authorities has always been too complex a problem. And this severely hampers our ability to move in the direction of personalized health. But even before that stage, we have huge issues today with our personal health data. In most places, it still remains too difficult to bring our health data together in a single personal health record. We often have to spend inordinate amounts of time collating paper records, which are not easily used by medical staff, or we get diagnosed and treated based on incomplete information, or worse, information which is wrong and we don't know that. It's happened to me. And going beyond health, there are many other areas where we can benefit, can get value, where that value may be a service, a convenience, or reward, if only we could share some personal data. For example, if I want to be truly recommended the right financial products at the right time, then I need to share more about me. For example, if I want personalized services in retail, travel, and other situations, then I need to share more about me. So we have to find a way to break down those stovepipes and enable the individual to share more. And of course, we have to do that with privacy, security, and consent baked in. We can't ignore that. So if we need to share more and better data, what is that data? What are its characteristics? Well, ideally, we want what I term rich data with 5 key characteristics. The first is we would ideally want a single source of data so that you don't have to see whether it's Julian, it's Julian, it's Julian, because that correlation of different data feeds, or in fact miscorrelation actually, which causes lots of errors in understanding who I am. Then we need multidimensionality of data, or width. I just mentioned that for personalized health, we need our health data, wearables, genomics, food, social data. And the same applies across many of our interactions. We need width to the data. Then we need depth or longitudinal in time. That might be 1 or 2 months of data. It might be 2 years. It might be a lifetime in the case of health. Now, the fourth one seems obvious, but isn't always. We need data to be accurate. But a lot of data isn't accurate. It's secondhand or inferred. But ideally, we want it from source and validated as such. Finally, if we're going to share more data, we need to make it easy to use. And data is not easy to use. It comes in all sorts of different formats and strangeness and quirks from the sources. A bit like all the languages we speak with their quirks of grammar. We can't all understand all languages. So we need to do what is called normalization, converting data to one language. So you only have to know that one language to use the data. So what we need is what we call rich data, which is single source, wide, deep, accurate, and normalized. Now let's forget privacy and security for a minute. Can any company in the world get rich data with those 5 characteristics about you? And the answer is no, they can't. You might think Facebook and Google know all about you, but if you think of your data as a circle of knowledge regarding yourself, they only have a wedge, a bigger wedge than many others, but still only a wedge. They have, for example, some social, some search, some web browsing, but they don't have your health data, your wearables, your financial information, purchases, and more. No company can get all the data about you. Creating a rich data library about you does seem completely impossible. And that means the future we're looking for of personalized medicine, financial services that actually meet your needs, personalization in services and so on can't be achieved. However, there is one entity in the whole system that does know all about you, and that is you. You know which banks you use, which social networks you have, where your medical data is, and no one else knows all this. You have a right to that data. You've always had that right, and ever more so, you have a right for that data digitally. And you're the only one who has unlimited usage rights over that data. For example, I can print out my health data and put it in the windows of my car and drive around showing everybody. If anybody else or any business did that, they would go to prison for violating my privacy. Therefore, if we are to integrate rich data about an individual, it can only be done at the individual. And that is the basis for a whole new personal data economy. One where we, the individual, are truly at the center of our digital lives, in control, sharing our data for services which we want, when we want. Now, there are various names for this new world: my data, human centricity, patient centricity. But the key is you at the center and you in control. So how does all this work then? By using a data facilitator, as it's called, such as My Business DigiMe. You're all very familiar with your phone, and you're familiar with your email client on it. And when you download the email client, you connect your 2, 3, 4 email accounts, which you authenticate once with a username and password. Then a miracle happens as far as you're concerned. All of your emails come down and you can see, search, and share them. It's very easy. You can do the same with DigiMe. Download it to your device, but instead of email, you connect to your GP or hospital, your bank accounts, your Twitter and Facebook accounts, wearables, Spotify, etc. Like your email accounts, you authenticate once, and every day your DigiMe gets a full copy of all the data for you. Then it's all normalized. Then you, the individual, choose where to store the data. There's a default cloud, or you can choose Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive. It doesn't matter, because your DigiMe encrypts all of your data with a key held only on your device. And because all the processing is at the edge, your device, meaning user-driven processing, DigiMe does not see, touch, or hold your data ever. And so your data is unique to you, fully secure, and 100% private. And it's rich data, which is single source, wide, deep, accurate, and normalized. Now, all the services implementing those future requirements I mentioned before can ask you for your data if you agree. Personalized medicine, hyper-personalized services, financial inclusion, and so on. They do that by using a consent certificate, which is designed to ensure what is known as specific and informed consent, ensuring you absolutely know who is asking you for your data, why they are asking, what they will do with it, and what you will get in return. If you agree that data transfer, that value proposition, then your DigiMe extracts from that perfect data store you have and sends only the relevant data to the service you've authorized. And they can use that data only for the purpose authorized. You also have full control. You can stop data transfers from happening. You can invoke your right to forget and see exactly what data has been transferred when. Now, the key to this future is the value exchange. What are you getting for agreeing to share your data? Now, whether that value is a service, convenience, and or a reward. So if there's a diabetes app that can work better if it has access to your medications data and your wearables information, then you can agree to share that data. And the value you get is better health. And all of this is far easier for businesses and services too. Now, any business, not just the major businesses such as Facebook and Google, can get access to more and better quality personal data easily and quickly with one proviso: if you agree. So what we've enabled by putting the individual at the center of their digital lives is the complete democratization of data. Anybody can now access it and data can flow, but it's under the control of the individual, and the data is better than anything you could have had before. So you will recall my 3 lessons from previous history: the power of networking, the power of aggregating data at a single point and redistributing from there, simplicity over complexity. This new personal data economy meets these 3 absolutely. You are the center of your network of value opportunities, able to use and reuse your information. You are the point of aggregation of all your data, the only logical and sensible place to do so. And this new world is simple. If a service needs your data, they ask you, and only you. Simple. Finally, here we are today at a social sciences-based institution. One question I would ask you: doesn't it feel right that we should all be in control of ourselves, our own data? Isn't that the natural answer to what has been a technical problem? Putting you at the center of your digital life solves privacy, security, and consent issues, whilst also opening up the future of data exchange for untold new and improved services. It opens new pathways to greater economic activity, delivering greater value to all: individuals, businesses, governments, and society as a whole. Thank you.